Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Royalty Missions Network Throne Room Conversations. It is a pleasure for us to be able to reach out and connect to each of you. I don't know where you are connected with us from. Regardless of the platform, we'd like to take a moment to allow you to hit and to share, like, and share so that we can have other people come in and join the conversation. We would also like you to feel free. If you have any questions or comments, you can submit them, and we'll be happy to respond and take that into consideration as we continue our discussion on which we started last week, that deals with a dream deferred. We originally entitled this show "A Dream Deferred Part 2," but we were thinking about the depth of conversation that we engaged in last week with Brother Sapp and Ned, and Brother White, Sister Jackie Oliver, and our missing host, Monica Jackson, who's experiencing some technical difficulties, which is another reason why our show started late, as well as Lady Ford from First Assembly Cornerstone in Florida. I'm saying greetings to everyone this afternoon, as we and welcome to you into this throne room, this place that was created for us to purge from our issues, to heal from our wounds, and to be transformed into what we were all created to become, and that is royalty. I am Mama Deborah, and I'm feeling in here, and I'm telling you, it has been a challenge because I feel like this mantle has been tossed into my lap, and at first I was saying I don't want it. I don't want this mantle. The weight of it is too heavy. And when we talk about the leadership that came under Dr. King, as we recognize him this month on the anniversary of his "I Have a Dream" street speech. And as always, and also in honor of celebration and acknowledgement of this mental wellness month, we tied these two things together, and we are here with our guests today to continue the discussion and what it demands of us on today. The names, unfortunately, of our guests are missing. And I'm just want to take this time for us to go around the room, this table on which we've all been invited to take a place at, so that we can partake and disseminate information to you that you too may be fed. I want to start with Chantel to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. Then on to you, Mr. Sapp. And I don't see your name. It's
Miss
missing.
Gittens.
Miss
Miss
Giddens.
Gittens.
Yes.
Gittens.
So in that order, you can introduce yourself.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and God bless you. I'm so happy to be on this platform this evening with such beautiful company. My name is Chantel Rhodes, and I am a candidate for Fort Myers City Council Ward 3. It's been an interesting experience, and I am blessed to be in this position, carrying this mantle, as Sister Deborah just mentioned to us. Um, I have an interesting background. I have a background in social work, social services, working with children and families. I went to live abroad in China for 2 years teaching English. I traveled all over the world, and now it's been a little bit less than 3 years, and I am back here in the United States. Um, I always say this line by Kanye West. I love it so much. He say, "I packed it up and I bought it back to the crib," and that's exactly what I feel like. I feel like for such a time as this, I feel powerful. I feel ready. I feel equipped. Even though all the pieces don't always fall together. So I'm blessed to be a part of this conversation, and I look forward to a great discussion that we're going to have here this evening.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you with us. Howard Sapp.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And it's just a wonderful opportunity again, as we're part of the conversation on last week, and such rich conversation it was, for with all of the participants and being able to share from their experience and from their perspective. Again, my name is Howard Sapp. I am the Democratic candidate for the State House of Representatives for District 78 for Fort Myers. And I'm so looking forward to continuing on with this does. Looking forward to working, here in the Fort Myers area, and really trying to bring us to where we need to be, so that our voice will continue to be heard, throughout the city and throughout the state. Certainly, we want to make sure that we make a difference, in our communities, and within the city of Fort Myers. But again, I'm just glad to be here. I'm a native of Fort Myers, deep roots in Fort Myers. My family is here. We've been here for basically all of my life, but I am just so happy and so glad to just be a part of the conversation on today. And I am, like Chantel, just so looking forward to it. I don't have anything from Kanye, but we'll say I'm just happy to be here today.
It's a pleasure to have you, Sister Gibbons.
Okay. And I am Gwynetta Gwen Gittens. I say all of it because I am running for re-election. I am on the Lee County School Board, and the way it shows on the ballot is Gwynetta, but most people call me Gwen. I have been on the Lee County School Board for 3.5 years. I was the first ever minority to sit on the Lee County School Board. And to me, that kind of ties this into the conversation very well, especially the part about a dream deferred. It was deferred for 132 years to have representation of a large part of our community and of our students to be represented on the school board. And I'll talk more about that later. I am not a native of Fort Myers, but I was moved here from the East Coast in 2003, my husband and I taught in the school system for 12 years, and I worked in corporate position for 12 years before that. So I bring what I like to say as the qualifications and the experience to do the job and the heart for the children to do the job. So I did go back and listen to the event from last week, and sorry I couldn't be here because that was a good one. And I will look forward to adding whatever I may and listening and learning from everyone else. And thank you for having me.
It is. I am excited by the fact that we have such a well-rounded group that has gathered today to really look a little bit deeper into the discussion that we began last week regarding Dr. King and the dream and its relevance, and our responsibility as well as accountability in taking that forward, and how it has applied to us in our lifetimes, how we see ourselves connecting with that dream, and where we see ourselves as far as this passing the mantle or picking up where he left off and moving forward. One of the first questions I like to throw out here, it's not really a question, just for you to share. We talk about a mantle. We discuss the importance of passing it on and taking it up, and especially of those of us who put ourselves in specific positions to represent. I say to you, what is this mantle? I'm going to pose it. We assume that a lot of people understand what it means, like to take it up. It's like I'm
Right,
going
right.
to take up your cross and follow me. Take it
Yes,
up. What are you asking
the
of me?
simplest way that I could put it is to pass that baton, to pass that torch, right? Imagine running that race that for me, yeah, as appreciative as I am for a figure like Dr. King and his work and his message, but that trickle down came all the way down through the bloodline and through across generations and across families. And so I pick it up from my mother. I pick that mantle up from my grandmother, and it comes down to purpose and a deep, deep knowing. That's what I feel like the mantle is. But to put it simply, it is the passing of that baton.
And can I say, I was fortunate enough to be named one of the Dream Keepers this year for Martin Luther King Day, and I truly appreciated that honor. But it made me think about and we had to discuss, the I have a dream piece.
Mhm.
And one of the things I said is, you can have a dream, but you have to wake up and make it work.
Mm.
You can't sit in the dream and just go, wow, when I get up, I'm going to do this and I see this ahead of me. You have to wake up from the dream part and work to make it reality.
Mm.
And I mean, I see that as my role with the school board. I will say I have a disappointment. In 3.5 years, I have looked for and talked to and asked people to share this journey and to share the dream and to wake up and walk with me and work so that we can continue to pass the baton. And um, I just wish there were more people that want to do that, because otherwise you're looking at a 132-year dream going down the tubes unless somebody else is there to take the baton and go the rest of the
Absolutely.
journey.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And Howard, did you have a comment? Something you
Yeah, I
want to add?
mean, yes, with the mantle, one of the things that I look at, and even looking at the mantle, and we talk about mantle, and definitely, like you said, passing the baton, and just like Chantel was saying. But one of the things I look at as think about the mantle as responsibility.
Mhm.
As
Mm.
what is that mantle? That mantle for me is responsibility.
Mm.
Responsibility to teach, responsibility to now share what I have gained, through my experience, to share that with the younger generation coming in, so that we're not deprived. When we look at the social economic issues, and when we look at other issues and things that were going on, like they say, if we don't learn from history, we're destined to repeat it. So if it's something that we don't want to repeat, it's my responsibility to show those that coming after me, look, these are things that you need to watch. These are things that you
Mm.
need to now be careful of, because if you don't now pay attention to these things, this is what can happen. And I can show them in history, this is what has happened, because we didn't, as they had coined this phrase, stay woke. We were not awake. We did not listen. We did not learn from that history. So it's my responsibility when my aunt, my aunt Veronica Shoemaker, when she was fighting for the rights and the privileges and everything for our community, I had to pay attention. Well, why is she fighting for those rights and for our community? And I'm looking now at seeing why she was doing that, because what she was fighting for, now I'm stepping in the ring to do that, to carry on that same fight. So I look at it as a responsibility.
I,
Absolutely.
all of that were very good. I like that piece about connecting, that piece about where that mantle comes from, how we get it is being passed down, what we observed and from our parents and forefathers, those things that we saw as important, us taking on the responsibility, our moving from the place of from dreaming to a place of action, all of
Mhm.
that being important. And as I think about those things and pull them together, I also think about the how that dream was presented, because we talk about the dream as if it is still the same dream that Dr. King had. Is
Mhm.
it in actuality the same dream, or is it a dream that is evolving, and that now, as we are experienced at this point in the future, from Dr. King, the thing that he was perceiving of, the thing that he was wanting. When we talk about President Obama and how victory was celebrated, and when we
Right.
did all these marches and thinking we've arrived and look what we've come, how far we've come,
Mm-hmm.
is it still the same? Is this thing that is being passed on when we say it as if it's the same old thing? Is
Mm.
that it?
I
No.
wouldn't say it's the same. I wouldn't say it's the same old thing because like you mentioned, you gave the example with Barack Obama, right? We've already realized that we've had an opportunity to witness that, and some people say, well, there it is. You got everything you've ever asked for. But I think with that dream, it's an expansion of that dream, right? And now we're seeing more information come out. Now we have more responsibility, as Howard mentioned. And so I think when it comes to that dream, I think you can build off of a dream just like you would build off of anything else, right? You'll see further injustices. You'll see beyond, in terms of years and decades, what Dr. King was unable to see and what he was unable to realize. But that's an interesting question. I've never thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, so here's what, in listening to all of you speak about this, I think it's interesting to think about it being the same dream. But it kind of takes me to think, Howard, you mentioned about passing it on to younger people and those, that are coming after. Maybe a part of it is fear on their behalf that we're handing something to them that maybe they don't understand, and maybe we need to explain it in a different way so they see how they can connect with it.
Mm-hmm.
And which goes to what you were saying about, is it the same dream? Because young people could look at it and think, well, this is the same old dream I keep hearing. The same thing we heard and we heard. You guys haven't, woke yet up to
Mm-hmm.
do that dream. What do you want of me? So maybe the responsibility lies in how you explain that dream and not just here's the mantle,
Mm.
but the teaching and the nurturing that goes with it to bring people to the point where they want to carry the mantle,
Yeah.
where it becomes their internalized mantle.
Yeah,
Just
that's interesting. And one thing I was thinking of, and it just hit me, even as Chantel was talking, but we look at the dream, and this is, for me, it's totally different than something I've never even thought of before. We look at the dream and we say, the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King had, is it the same dream? But we always say, we're going to carry that dream. But that was his dream.
Yes.
That was his dream. Does his dream necessarily transfer to us to be now our dream? It was his dream. And I was thinking, his dream, was it necessarily just for Blacks? Was it for
no.
those, so he was, to me, it's like he was dreaming of a society where they would transform their thinking. So are we more or less accomplishing his dream? Well, we can't then just talk to one particular group of people. We have to then talk to the other side of the people. How do they see the dream? And we can look at it as a nation. Are we more closer to where Dr. Martin Luther King's dream is being realized? And we can look at a whole lot of statistics to say, I'm not sure where we are with his dream.
Are we
So
talking about relevance?
exactly.
This is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, he was dealing with the specific issues that were plaguing the citizenry of this country at that time. He spoke specifically to them. And at that, we pick up on the dream speech. We talk about the collective gathering of them. We talk about the march, and we want to emulate the march. We want to garner that same energy. But the energy was not just what he was passing on was just not the energy to ignite a march.
Right.
He was trying to ignite something within the individuals, and as he told them, go back home.
Yes.
Go to
Mhm.
your places, whatever
Hmm.
it is that you are operating in, your position. And from
And
that
do this.
position,
Right.
do things.
Right.
Do
Mhm.
It wasn't different specific things that he was calling them to do. Or
Hmm.
was
Mhm.
it?
Well, and then too, think about it. If you look at it, a dream or whatever, or mantle in the biblical sense, think of the people in the Bible. When did God give them what they had to do? You know, they would lay down and go to
They had
sleep,
to do.
and God would
Yeah,
put it in their head, this is what I want of you.
you.
Hmm.
Yes.
And I think maybe that's where sometimes the young people have the disconnect, because we're trying to make our vision of that
Yes.
dream be
Yeah.
their vision.
Yes.
I
And
mean,
and
you
I
look at
I
it,
agree.
everybody wants to be free to live in the United States. But
Mhm.
what does that look like? What does
Yes.
it look like to
That's
Right.
you? What does it look like to you? What is freedom? What does
Yeah.
freedom mean? When
And
you
that's
say let
exactly that's
freedom
why I said it's
ring,
an expansion of that dream.
Hmm.
It's an expansion of the dream because like Howard said, it's not that's Dr. King's vision, and we can capture that energy. And now, because of the progress we've made from Dr. King's effort, Dr. King and the effort of others, now I can stand strong and say, whew, all right, that gives me hope.
Hmm.
To press forward, to press this mark forward, to realize my dream. And as far as the young people, and I have this conversation quite a bit, especially in the campaign trails, like where are young people, right? Like, has this idea of responsibility died? Has it shed away? And every generation, the generation that came before them thinks, oh my God, what are we gonna do with these kids? They're a mess. Like it's historically passed down, but that survival is there, those stories are there, us passing those messages down. And like you said, Miss Gittens, what is freedom? What is liberation? They are not facing the same challenges as Dr. King. We are not facing the same challenges that they
Right.
faced in that day and age. But what does it look like for us? What does it look like in a time where there is, depression and anxiety are well talked about? What are we battling? What are we trying to be free from? What now does that dream look like in terms of liberation? Like you mentioned, Sister Deborah, it's not about just black and white. It was a issue of humanity. But the
Hmm.
dream these days can look like, what does it look like to successfully combat mental illness?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
or
just
what
one
is
example.
success? What
Hmm.
is success?
Hmm.
Because
Success is learning.
sometimes I
Success is learning. To me, when it comes to what does it mean to successfully combat, is to it's to not be overcome by something, right? Not saying that it's going to disappear, because depression, anxiety, PTSD, all of that has to be managed like anything else, right?
Hmm.
I could say I have anger issues, say for example, and that's not going to go away, just because, oh, I've done a few classes, but I have to manage that, and a part of it, and that is what I would call success in that circumstance.
Yeah. No, those are good things, and just like you say, it's when we look at, like you say, the dreams, and we look at the different responsibilities and the different trials, and the different fights that we're going to have. Like you said, Dr. King, he was looking at his situation and what was going on at that particular time, and he was saying, well, this is what I have a dream of, and then and just like you mentioned, like when we can go back to the Bible and say, okay, well, Moses at the Red Sea, he was faced with a challenge, and then God gave him what he needed at that particular time. But then his successor, Joshua, had another uh situation or whatever, and
right.
God helped him. But then if you continue on, you look at, well, then Nehemiah, he had another situation, where God, so like you say, at different times we're going to have
Mhm,
different
mhm.
issues and different problems that we're going to have to fight, but it's still, like you say, overall, we have to realize, and I think Chantel had mentioned it before, it's an expansion of, because of the fact that everybody's going to have a different situation, a different fight at a particular time that
Right,
you're going to have to overcome, in some kind of way.
right. So then
Does
is the dream
does
like a process?
well, and I was just gonna say, because the goal, the end, which there may never be an end of it, but it continues to move.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about young people not wanting to take up the same mantle because when we were young, and when our grandparents were young, they couldn't ride in the same bus.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
we were young, we may have had to, uh, go to a different door or something like that. And now the next generation, they can go in the door, they can ride on the bus, they can do all of these things. So, what is their mantle? Because they look at us and go, well, that mantle doesn't fit me. I can ride on the bus, I can go
Mm-hmm.
where I want to go, but when it hits them, I think, is when they reach that level of maturity and someone says, no, you can't have this job, or no, you
Mm-hmm.
can't live in this house, or no, you
Mm-hmm.
can't buy this, or no, you can't sit over here, then it hits them. And at that maturity level, they're able to figure out, there are some problems. Now, what am I going to do? And what
Right.
is
Right.
my dream?
I
Bless
think
you, bless you.
it goes to what I hear us saying is we talked about a broader communal dream, and then we talked about individual passions, desires, and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
where this dream starts, it starts within the individual, us recognizing that in order for us to be well,
Mm.
our mental health, our families, because we talk about the breakdown of the families, what's going on in the schools, prison, and the pipeline from school to
Mhm.
prison. We talk about all of these things, but all of these things begin with the individual. And so we talk about individual pain, individual suffering, and how, as important it is for the individual to begin to see themselves as a connected part of this process, knowing that whatever is being done, and each of you have taken up a mantle, have your dreams, have established agendas, and having an agenda is not a bad thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
about how you connect and align that agenda to meet the individual needs in such a way that the problems of the joblessness, lack of medical benefits and health care, I can't find a job, how I'm going to feed my children because inflation and all of these are so high, how we are going to connect on this level of collectiveness of what's happening to
Mm-hmm.
the whole to reach the individual, because it's at the individual level that the mantle gets passed, that we talk about a tie that binds, that we are able to tie together and do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How do we break this thing down where my motivation, my issues, my things that I feel and passionate about, I'm dreaming about, is going to really impact at even the grassroots level where I can ignite a flame and a fire in them so that they feel that their needs are being met in my dream.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
isn't it from something you just said about our own individual dreams and mental health? Do we not, in some ways, create our own mental issues because we can't get people to understand and see our individual dreams?
Dr. King said that. That was one of the points when he said our creative, I forget the terminology, where he talked about how we created this suffering, our creative suffering.
Mm. Mm.
He said that in the speech. We've created this, but there is a redemption that is possible. And the redemption was found in the unification of the unity, the solidarity of us being able to connect in the
And
dream,
sharing with others.
the tie that binds.
Yes.
Tied
Mm.
together through our mutual sufferings and our seeing that my success, my greatness, the fulfillment of you're running for office. You can't get
Mhm.
there by yourself. You need me.
Tell me about it.
Before
Exactly.
the 23rd, you
I
need
Exactly.
gotta
me
go pick up some.
registered
I gotta
voters.
go pick up some little cousins after this to have them
Exactly.
help me pass
Exactly.
out stuff. I
But
can't get
that's
there.
where we frustrate ourselves to the point of mental stagnation because it's like someone said to me, they always ask me, what do you think of the new superintendent? I said, I really like him. Well, what do you like about him? And my one answer is, he sees me. He sees me. He hears me. He listens to me. And he values that I am there.
Mhm.
So, and I can see where mental issues can come in because you get so frustrated. Well, there's a roadblock here. Can anybody but me see that?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Wake up. And if nobody listens to you, you internalize, you get weaker and weaker instead of getting it out.
Mhm.
Right.
And
And I
not,
think what it's
not just,
about is
I'm sorry,
having
can I just say
people
this? Not
validate
just on
that.
an individual level, but on a communal level as well. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Mhm.
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, Miss Gittens, to be seen, what does it mean to be seen? What does it mean to be heard? What does it mean to feel validated? So you talk about this mental frustration that we experience when others don't get it. As a community, we've experienced that frustration. Like, do
Mhm.
you not see my humanity? Do you not
Mhm.
see my godship? And so I think that is something we are very familiar with, right? And so
Right.
I think we have to try to combat that and work on when I am seen. This is when I am seen. This is the message that I'm going to bring. This is what I'm going to bring to the table because I know it took a lot. My grandmother wasn't seen. My mother wasn't seen. My great grandparents, they weren't seen. And now that we are at such a time as this, thank you to the ancestors. Thank you to all the ones that paved the way. What am I going to do with this mantle, this
Mhm.
responsibility? I got to make this thing work. I have to make it pop.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that for us to try and I guess our responsibility even now, talk about the mantle will be, a twofold thing to take where we are now and then try and move us forward, all while trying to teach those that's coming behind us,
Mm,
to get them to see, that it's amazing. And we talk about the younger generation because when you ask them certain questions, about where they think, we are as a country, as with the racial issues, with all of these things there, and you ask them specific things, for them, it's like there is no problem. I don't see a
Right.
problem. I don't see, have, no one has ever, I guess they'll use sometimes even in their vernacular, some phrases and stuff that back in the day, we were like, that
mhm,
would never be said, as just
Mhm.
as free as you guys would say it, because
mhm.
those weren't things that we said at that particular time,
Right.
or they were very offensive, but now it's okay,
Mhm,
so like I think Ms. Gibbs was talking about, when you look at, things as far as you know, the responsibility of how people perceive things and being seen and being heard and being
mhm,
able to um, you know, get the kids to see that how would I say it? When they feel as though they're being seen, just because someone may give them something at a particular time to possibly appease them, that's not necessarily being seen.
mhm, mm,
And we have to make sure that our kids understand that just because they'll give you something to appease you at a particular time, let's look at the
Exactly.
big picture.
performative justice too.
There you go.
That
There you
sound
go.
like a little
Yes.
bit of that
Yes.
performative
There
justice.
you go.
And
There you
another thing
go.
I wanted to add to that, just like, you know, and I can be a little defensive of the youth because I work with I work here at Golisano Children's Hospital, in the mental health department. But one of the things is just like the dream is different, the problems look different. The reason they say
Mhm.
the problems don't exist is because we're explaining to them our problems, our fears,
Exactly. Hmm.
the fears of back in the day, and they like, well, I don't see it, and they're not wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say that problem is going to look different for them as well. I don't think we're raising the clueless ones. I think once they get it, because I know my mom was a little stressed about me, like, man, this didn't work out the way I thought it would. And then one day, like you said, Miss Gittens, it hits you. Oh, I now I'm facing something myself where I feel powerless. Oh, I don't like this feeling. And it had to be individual for me to then say, I want to be an advocate
Yes.
for others. I
Mm-hmm.
want to have that voice for other, but it did start with the individual. So talk about the ties that bind. I am
Mhm.
there is no separation between me and the church. The church is instilled in me. There is no separation between me and my black community. That is an essential part of me. It's a part of me. So those are some of the ties that bind. I don't know. I'm
Well,
everywhere.
I want to say too one thing. In the position that I'm in, you want to talk about a heavy mantle as being the first. And I
Mm,
will never forget reading in Michelle Obama's book, and there was a quote that said, when you are the first, you do not have the option of failure.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
You don't even have that in your repertoire because you are the voice for the voiceless. You are educating. I feel like at times, and I've told him this, the reason, so you know why I'm on this board? Because God wanted all of you all to understand all of us and all the minorities. Because if you don't interact and communicate with someone who's different from you, you never learn how to interact.
Mm-hmm.
And my voice on the school board is for the voice of all those children in
mm.
the achievement gap
Bless they
Mm-hmm.
that
heart.
they don't know what to do. And I say all the time the achievement gap is one of my main issues. It's children that are not learning up to their potential. But we've got 40% Hispanic students. You teach them Spanish, and 90% of them soar and they move out of the achievement gap. There are some that don't. But what about the other children? Why are they consistently in that gap? Do they need something that we just haven't invented yet? Do they understand that maybe it's a cultural thing that they need more relationship rather than rigor and relevance? What is it that's going to reach those children? But as far as the mantle, it's like being the voice for those children and those parents that don't understand how and what to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we talk about it that way, and we talk about the mantle as from the biblical context as covering. It was the covering and a granting of authority,
Mm-hmm.
empowering. I think we talked about it. You, Howard, mentioned about for the specific time and purpose that they were there was
Mhm.
calling an
Mm-hmm.
individual calling. I see it too, Chantel, as you talk about the children in in the ward and their inability to connect to our dream. Why? Because they have been disillusioned by a lot of the things that they have seen from those who have been put in places of leadership,
Mm-hmm.
those who were to cover and protect, those who have been granted and given the authority. So now you have generations and of people and segments of our community, different various communities, who feel like they don't matter, that they are not seen. We pick up these larger topics, these mantles, and we go off on these dreams and these and we say we're fighting for these very people, but they don't feel connected to us. What
Mm-hmm.
is it that we can do to enable them to see that we see that we are really woke, that we're not just dealing with the surface issues? Because a lot of times, what we're thinking a person needs is not what they need. They
Right.
do need, and I think you just get as you were talking about relationship, because you poured education system, money was poured into school systems. And we said, oh, we need this, and we passed this, and new standards, and that, and the other to reach these kids. But what happened was their needs weren't met. They never felt connected. I know in New Jersey, one of the standards that they put in place that had to be met is that we had to be able to motivate, to put that passion. On Royalty Mission Network, we talk about the person, the passion, the purpose, the plan, and ultimately to get to a place of peace, of joy, of success, of wholeness. How do we get there? Because we have to deal with all those different facets, because we are not just one, deal with one aspect of us and it's done.
Mm.
But you can't give away what you don't have. You cannot
That's
pour
good.
into someone compassion and love and understanding if you don't have it to give away.
Mm.
And
That's
how you know.
That's important. That's
Mhm.
important because the people that we put in office, think about what we hear on the news, what's going on now. When we
Mhm,
talk about being disillusioned, we have
mhm,
the trials going on, what happened with the vote tampering, the chat, the this, and all of the stuff that continually we see this. So we wonder why they don't come out and vote. We need your vote because we're going to be the ones to make the difference. And there's a distrust.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yes.
Not that they're
And
not woke, because they are woke. They do understand and they see deeper. And they're like, wait a minute. Everything that shines on the surface and everybody that speaks and spouts these things, they are.
Mhm,
and I
That's what
think it
we're trying to
goes
see.
back to where's our victory? Where's
Mhm.
our victory? Like I said, the
mhm,
reason that we can pick up this mantle with confidence is because we've seen what others have been able to overcome. Miss Gittens is the first. That's a victory, right? We know that doesn't solve all of the problems. Being the
That's
first
right.
black school board member, that doesn't mean we've arrived and we have overcome. However,
mhm,
those victories, we cannot. I tell people all the time when I'm protesting, sometimes you just don't know what to say when protesting. But what I tell people is we cannot fall prisoner to this event as if this has
That's
never
right.
happened
That's
before,
right.
as if we have not experienced the bottom of the totem pole, if we have not experienced the valleys of darkness and despair and depression. And those victories is what we have to hold on to. Those small victories, that is what gives us fuel to keep going, because taking hit after loss after no after rejection, then there is no hope. There is
Mhm.
no hope for the people.
And that's I think is part of the disheartening piece, but it's part of our reality because a lot of people have lost that hope,
Mm,
because of the fact of, like you said, the very same reason, you've seen rejection after no, after can't do, after can't have,
mhm,
after,
mhm,
you're not, whatever qualified to this, so many people have seen those particular or felt those particular feelings and received those comments, and now it's to where we're saying, okay, but hanging there with us, hanging there with us, hanging there with us, but it's just like I had said something to someone, and it's just like, as an example, you have a church that they've been trying to build, for a number of years, and
mhm,
they've been giving money, giving money, giving money, giving money, but the church never gets built. So
mhm.
after a while, the members are going to say, you know what, this church is going to
Ain't
build.
no building fund. That building
They're
fund
not,
is a
yeah.
they're
sham.
not going to build
What
it.
a sham it is.
So now
We
you
ain't
get a
even
new
got a
pastor.
trailer built.
Yeah, yeah. So now you get a new
How
pastor.
many chicken dinners?
You get a new pastor that comes in and he said, "We're going to do this." They said, "Man, they've been talking about that for I don't know how
Yes.
long.
Right,
That's not
right.
even going." And
The
see, and
hope is
that's
not
where,
there. Yeah.
a lot of our people are. So it's like, well, how do we let them know that yes, we're going to do
What we
this,
say.
what we say, and it's a difficult piece,
Yeah.
because of the fact that it's now a mindset,
Yeah.
because it is. I think they've said it before, that you can be, in prison and free, and or you can be free
Mhm.
and yet still in prison,
Mhm.
Mm,
because of the fact that your mind has not been set free yet. You
mm.
can be behind these gates, but you know what, dude, I'm free.
That's
I'm
the
living.
Yeah.
freedom.
This
And
is
I
where
think a
I
way,
am.
and I understand that, and going forward as leaders, and I know we're about to wrap up shortly, but one of the things I think we can do is learn how to empower others to hold
Hmm.
us to accountable, right? Because what happens is, oh, these leaders haven't done anything, there's nothing getting done, and then you can't even they can't even tell you who their elected official is. They can't even
That's
tell
true,
you. They can't even name three ministers in the area. They
because they've
can't
gotten
when
so
there's this.
disconnected.
Right, there is this attitude of distrust, but what is in your hand? And that's what I push it back to
Personal
people with
responsibility.
Chantel, what you gonna do about this? I'm gonna talk to some people to find out
Hmm.
how they feel. I'm gonna talk to people and get expert advice. I'm gonna listen to people, and that way you invite others into the conversation to where yeah, there is a figure, there is a representative, an elected representative, ordained minister, or
Hmm.
anointed representative. However, when you learn that this is ours to do together, hello, the ties
Yes,
that
that's
bind.
important.
This is
Hmm.
not something for let me gather up all the problems of mankind in the black race since since the
Hmm.
transatlantic slave
No,
trade, and then give them to somebody and say
no,
fix poverty, fix our
Right.
neighborhoods,
Hmm.
fix poor education. That's not how it works. This is
No,
ours to do together.
But
exactly. Yeah.
when you think about what you just said, and I relating it to education, I'm relating it to District 5, the East Zone that's been forgotten, and new schools. They want to build new schools on the other side of town. And how does that affect the East Zone? And the East Zone is more than just kids that look like me. It's
Mm,
kids that look like me. It's Hispanic kids. It's poor white kids. It's
mhm.
all of them together collectively are losing. So our message needs to be helping people to learn how to listen. Because I can tell you right now, especially in this political time, I was at an event last night and talking to people, and the stuff that they believe just because somebody told them
Hmm.
is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I start out saying,
Yeah.
number one, I didn't create CRT.
Right. Like
Number
imagine.
two, I don't teach it, and neither do our
Oh
teachers.
man.
Number three, we do not bring your children in and teach them, inject them with
Yeah.
engaging.
Yeah.
Okay?
Hmm.
That does not occur. And number three, when you talk about, people love to say, let's get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. So what I tell them is
how do you
go to
want them?
www.fldoe.org, put in FSA. That's the test that all the kids take, and look up what parts of it. It is made up of reading, writing, and math.
Hmm.
Mm,
So we have never stopped teaching it. It is the basis of what we teach.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
my point is, people need to learn to listen to others without making a
That's
determination,
right.
Mhm.
Without the judgment.
connect with others, and then you can relate. Because if you're not listening
Mhm.
to me, you're not going to connect with me, and you will
Mhm.
never relate to
Mm.
the issues that I have.
And
Wow.
that's what a lot of people think that politicians do. Because one of the things that I tell people all the time, I'm not a politician, but I don't go in, and I don't like to go in and tell people, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do A, B, C, and D, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Hold up.
Mhm.
You haven't even asked them what their needs were. And I think that you, Ms.
That's
Deborah, had said
important.
that from the jump,
Mhm.
we a lot of times jump off and assume that this is what somebody needs, and that's not what they need. So
Right.
we're trying to solve a problem that's not even there because we think this is
I
what
Yeah.
agree.
the community, this is
Yeah.
what the black community
And
needs.
then
This is
it's
what
not
the
even all
homeowners.
about, and I hear you on that, Howard. And sometimes it's about helping people
Yes,
identify and helping people
yes,
define what certain things are. You be surprised. A lot of this is about education.
yes.
A lot of
And
this is not about problem
communication.
solving,
Hmm.
And
communication, education.
communication.
It's not about a solution. It is about that
Right.
process. So when I hear
Yes.
the dream, it's the process of learning how to stand up for yourself, learning what it means to recover when you do feel discouraged, when you
Hmm.
do get knocked down. And that process is invaluable.
And
Definitely.
also learning how, in the process of me fulfilling my dream, not stepping on yours.
Yes.
Let me live my dream, work through my dream, share mine with you, but I can't step on yours because it's not the same as mine.
That's a good place for us to kind of segue to, because that's acknowledging that that I'm not a possessor of all truths and all knowledge. and acknowledging the humanity of the other,
Yes.
recognizing that there is a boundary to my freedom.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I want to say free because that was in the Dr. King talked about free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Free to do what?
Mhm. Mhm.
Free to be what?
Mhm.
We can't just do any and everything because we have the ability and the capability, the capacity to do it. That there is a human responsibility that I have, not just for myself, but for the other.
Mhm.
And that
Where does
how
my
do we
freedom?
get that? How do we pass that piece along? Because that's essential when we talk about mantles and our building the community that we need. I am reminded of scripture, and it was First Corinthians 12, when it talks about the unity of the body
Yeah.
and how each of us were, everybody's not a hand, everybody's not a ear. I
Right.
can't be you. I
Mhm.
don't need to replicate
Mhm.
Dr. King. I don't have to go out and think that I'm not enough in and of myself. But I have to recognize that where I am, what my issues are important to my well-being, and my community is dependent upon me, how important my role is as an individual. We try to instill that to our students in the classroom, that it is
Mhm.
important for you. That's what motivates them to a place of feeling a sense of belonging, that our destinies, isn't that what Dr. King was talked about? Our
Right.
destinies are interconnected, that
Mhm.
I
And
can't do what I need to do.
my
Yes,
freedom does not mean that you're enslaved.
that's right. And it doesn't give me the right, like you were saying, it does not give me the right to impinge my judgments of what I think is right. Because I'm not
Exactly.
judge and jury, but I do have a human responsibility
Mhm.
to become the best me I can be. That is
Mhm.
not for me to play victim and want someone to fight this battle when I'm not living. That's a book of T. Washington when he was talking. When I think about the formation, I talked about this before, of Tuskegee Institute, and why it was important for each of them to get a trade and the goal to start a business, to become self-sufficient so that you can feel
Mhm.
good and become a contributing member of society, that you are needed.
Right.
And so the
Right.
message is not for me to just to placate you, to say, oh, you need more food stamps.
Right,
Um,
right, right. String you along.
you know,
Just,
Yeah.
just
just throw them a little something.
Yeah. There
yeah.
you go. There you go.
This
And
is
so
Girl, you
we
about
need
to
to
make
sort these
take
out.
off running laps around this. Let me see if I can. It's y'all talking good tonight.
And so, and we take these, and some of us, we want, I'm not putting these things down because for the interim, I may need these things because when the slaves were freed, they were free without resources.
Mhm.
that.
They
Yes.
were told verbally
Yeah.
that they were free, but they were never enabled or given
Is
the
that free?
capacity to experience that freedom.
Mhm.
So they left one form of bondage to go into another,
Right.
Exactly.
because
So
that's
they
what
know
we're
that's what
talking about
yeah.
needs to come.
So they know, so it's like, they know how to, keep you in a place, like you said. Okay, so like you said, okay, you're free, but I'm not going to give you anything. Go and do, and knowing full and well that what you're able to do is very limited without the resources.
That's right.
So I can still hold, I can still say that no, you're free. I said that you were free, and I'm giving you all of that, but I'm not giving you any resources to move forward. So but
So are you free, Howard?
That's right.
I
Are
mean,
you free? If I tell you you're free, you can go wherever you want, but you don't have a car, you don't have bus money, you don't have Uber money, you don't have a friend with a car,
mhm.
how are you free to go wherever you want?
Free yet restricted. Sounds like you
Exactly,
restricted.
exactly,
You bound
exactly.
by you bound by poverty. You bound by the lack of.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
isn't that the message that we talk about this mantle and our responsibility to those who we are put in place to cover, wherever it is that it's like bloom where you're planted.
Mhm.
Wherever it is that we have been positioned and finding ourselves. And we're coming down to the end of this, and I want everybody to prepare for your closing comments. But to understand that we are tied together by our hurts and wants. There are certain things, certain inalienable rights, okay? Things that we are in need of in order for us to be at experience this well-being, this sense of freedom, so to say, that I can be all you can be. Even in a school classroom setting, that there are certain things that certain things that I have to give up in my freedom that I can do, okay, that I'm still able to function in, that there's certain things that I can do that maybe I should not do so that I can enable you because I share and see that you have a lack. It's like that banquet table where everybody's the gourmet, all you can eat station, and we go there and we take all the food off and not can know that I am my brother's keeper and that there is a responsibility for me to give to you and pass that responsibility on to you of the need to be the keeper and the carer, knowing that that's what your well-being is what's going to keep me well. I don't have to worry about you robbing me if you have what you need.
Right.
There's certain things I'm not going to have to worry about if I am treating you fairly. I'm only going to worry about them if I'm trying to restrict you because I'm climbing up and trying to get mine, every man for himself, like the crabs in the barrel kind of mentality.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I think there was a message in there about us wrapping up.
Go ahead. Just for each of us, I'm going to go around as we started to just take this moment and give your closing comments as to this mantle, the common wounds that we share. How do we move forward to acknowledge, actively listen to, and doing our part so that does not become an infringement, but a motivator to take us to the next place, whatever that dream is, to whomever that dream belongs.
So that's a loaded question, but I'm going to attempt to lean into that a little bit. And what I say to people is as I mentioned earlier, we're not falling victim or prisoner to this event as if we're hopeless, right? It's people of faith that goes beyond just having faith in the cross, faith in, oh, one day, we're going to spend eternity somewhere else. That faith is to be applied in the here and in the now. Lean into it with work. Look at the stories that were told, that were passed down to us. The I have a dreams, the stories that mama and grandmama told us about when they were mistreated, and lean into that. And when you lean into that, there is a collective understanding, right? There is that tie, that understanding. I may be experiencing something as an individual, but when I stand up, what's that saying? I come as one, but something about 10,000. I got really 10,000 people standing behind me, walking with me, watching over me, and guiding me, and having that combination of faith, that combination of perseverance, and learning from the stories of the past. Lean into it and keep going. That's the message.
Howard?
Yes, and the one thing that I certainly try and do is, whenever I talk to anyone that I talk to, the message that I always want to give is, I want to speak so that I'm understood, and I want to listen so that I understand. And then I just keep it moving from there. So as long as I'm speaking, and I'm not speaking just to talk, but I want to speak so that I am understood, and I want to listen so that I understand.
Okay, and I would go back to the listening, connecting, and relating to others. And you have to do all three. You can't just do one, you have to do all three. And I think when it comes to motivating others to even have a dream and that dreams are possible, it's through like us that are on here that live it. We teach through the way we live. When your name is on the ballot, or people see you and ask you about this, you are showing that this can be done. You're encouraging others to come up with their own dream. not just taking the one that you have, but their own version of their own dream, because that's the only way, unless they internalize it, that's the only way that they're really going to work it. And I do want to make one comment. We have to make sure in our community people understand that August 23rd is D-Day voting for so many of us. There are two people in my race, me and my opponent. And on the 23rd, the only way I will be on a ballot in November is if on the 23rd, both of us get 50-50 of the vote. We need 50% plus one, and it's over. So a lot of people have said, oh yeah, I vote in November. No, you need to vote in the primary. And that's between the 13th to the 20th. There's open early voting. You can go anywhere in the county to vote. Go on your lunch hour at work. If you work in Bonita, it doesn't matter. And then on the 23rd is the final day. But if you don't vote, you won't have a voice, and you can't say if I could have, would have, should have later on. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Terry.
I am so appreciative of each of you joining us and sharing. I think this was an excellent continuation of the conversation. I do recognize that it is it takes a lot to do what you do. And it is through the wounds of others that we find our healing. That's the thing, that we are saved by the wounds. I mean, from a Christian perspective, we say by his stripes, we are healed. But we as a people, as a nation, are healed by the wounds. Those of you who put in that extra effort, who have been clothed with the power and authority and been given the insight and been empowered to move forward in your purpose, and never yielding to it, but sacrificing of yourselves, committing yourselves to the others' well-being, not just your own, that we are able to hold you up and help you lift your hands as you lift and pull us all forward to the better. That we thank you for it, and that we recognize that the part that we play is no small feat. The things that we do keep you moving forward on our behalf. So again, thank each of you. We applaud you.
Thank you. All of you too.
Thank you all.
I'm waiting.
When the live goes on. Where's that? Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you next week.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
All right. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.